You're driving back home after an evening with her, and even though everything seemed to go smoothly, there's a nagging feeling that something isn't quite right. She was smiling throughout the date. She laughed at every joke you made. She pulled you in for a hug before climbing into her car, and she even mentioned she'd be in touch soon. On the surface, nothing went wrong at all, yet you find yourself replaying the entire evening in your mind because it feels like she's pulling away just a little more each time you two meet. Before long, doubt starts creeping in and taking over your thoughts. Did I seem too eager? Why does it always feel like I'm the one putting in more effort? What is it that other guys understand that I haven't figured out yet? If any of this sounds familiar, you're definitely not the only one. Nearly every man who sincerely wants a real relationship eventually reaches a point where he convinces himself the solution is to give even more of himself. He makes himself more available, becomes more accommodating, shows more patience, and starts sacrificing his own needs because he assumes that's exactly what a high-value woman is searching for. After all, in nearly every other area of life, putting in more effort leads to better results, so why wouldn't the same logic apply to attraction? The truth turns out to be surprisingly straightforward. A high-value woman doesn't start losing interest because a man treats her with kindness, stays loyal, or genuinely invests in the relationship. She begins pulling away when he gradually stops being the man she was originally drawn to. Rather than continuing to lead his own life, he starts orbiting around hers instead. Instead of holding firm to his own values, he quietly starts trading them away in exchange for her approval, convinced that each compromise will draw her closer to him. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 8 powerful boundaries that emotionally strong men never give up. These aren't manipulation tactics, dating tricks, or games to play. They're simply the habits that safeguard your self-worth while quietly making a high-value woman want to keep choosing you. Let's begin with the first one. Your time should never require her permission. This boundary has nothing to do with saying no more often or faking a busy schedule. It's entirely about protecting the life you had already built before she ever entered the picture. One of the fastest ways a man loses his own identity in a relationship is by clearing his entire calendar the second a woman shows a flicker of interest. He starts canceling plans with his friends, rearranging important commitments, and setting his own priorities aside because he genuinely believes that's what devotion looks like. But a high-value woman rarely reads that as confidence. Instead, she starts to wonder whether your life actually has any direction outside of her. If you're willing to drop any plan at a moment's notice, if every spare hour instantly belongs to her, she won't feel chosen. She'll feel like she's the only thing keeping your life interesting, and that's a weight no emotionally healthy person wants placed on their shoulders. Picture this scenario. She calls you on a Friday afternoon asking if you're available that evening, but you already have dinner plans with a close friend. A lot of men would instantly respond, "No problem, I'll cancel, let's meet up instead." It might sound considerate on the surface, but underneath it quietly signals that your own commitments don't hold much real weight. Now picture a different kind of response. "I'd really love to see you, but I've already got plans tonight. I'm free tomorrow evening if that works for you." There's no apology attached, no scrambling to rearrange your life, and no underlying fear that she'll lose interest simply because you weren't. Instantly free. That's exactly what this boundary communicates. Your time carries value because your life carries value. And a high-value woman will almost always respect a man whose world was already in motion long before she became a part of it. The second boundary is this: stop treating her like your only priority. One of the most common mistakes good men make is assuming that the more time they pour into a woman, the stronger their relationship will become. At first, it feels completely harmless. You skip a workout because she'd rather spend time with you. You turn down plans with your friends because you don't want to let her down. Slowly, your hobbies start fading into the background. Your weekends begin revolving entirely around her schedule, and before you even realize it, you've built a life where nearly everything hinges on one single person. It might feel like commitment to you, but a high-value woman often experiences it in a completely different way. She's not looking for a man whose entire existence revolves around her. She's looking for a man whose life is already full of purpose, friendships, passions, and ambition. someone who invites her into that fulfilling life rather than abandoning it just to make room for hers. The distinction matters enormously, because one path builds genuine attraction while the other quietly builds pressure and resentment. Imagine one of your closest buddies invites you on a fishing trip you've been looking forward to for months. The instant she suggests spending that same weekend together, you cancel your trip without a second thought. She might appreciate the gesture at first, but after watching this pattern repeat itself again and again, she starts noticing that every piece of your life is slowly vanishing for her sake. Now picture a different kind of man, one who smiles and says, "I already promised the guys I'd be there this weekend, but let's plan something for the two of us once I'm back." There's no guilt attached, no apologizing, and no anxiety that keeping his word will somehow cost him the relationship. That's what a healthy emotional boundary looks like in action. A high-value woman doesn't want to become your entire world. She wants to become a meaningful part of a life that already has direction, purpose, and people who genuinely matter to you. The third boundary: her emotions are not something you're obligated to carry. Plenty of men believe that being a good partner means solving every single problem a woman brings to them. The instant she sounds upset, they jump straight into problem-solving mode. They hand out advice before she's even asked for it, apologize for things they had nothing to do with, or assume that her mood is somehow their fault to fix. Their intentions aren't about control, they're trying to protect the relationship. But a high-value woman frequently experiences this in a very different light. She doesn't always need to be rescued. What she wants is someone who can stay calm and grounded while she works through a tough moment. There's a massive difference between the two. Picture her calling you after an exhausting day at work. She's frustrated because a project didn't go the way she planned, and she just needs to vent. Before she's even finished speaking, you jump in with solutions. Maybe you should talk to your boss tomorrow, or you probably just misread what they meant. Your intentions are good, but instead of feeling understood, she feels like you're rushing to wrap up the conversation. Now picture a different approach. You listen without cutting in. Once she's done, you simply say, "That sounds really exhausting. I completely understand why you'd feel that way." Then you let the silence do the rest of the work. What you've given her in that moment isn't a fix, it's your steady presence. A high-value woman doesn't expect you to shoulder her emotions, and she definitely doesn't expect you to resolve every obstacle she faces. What she remembers is whether you stayed grounded when things got hard. A man who can remain calm without absorbing every emotional wave communicates quiet, unshakable strength, and that kind of strength earns far more trust than jumping in to fix everything ever could. The fourth boundary: never laugh off disrespect. One of the most powerful boundaries an emotionally mature man holds onto is knowing the difference between a light-hearted joke and quiet disrespect disguised as humor. A lot of men overlook that distinction because they're afraid of coming across as insecure. They force a smile when something genuinely bothers them, laugh along when a comment clearly crosses a line, and tell themselves it's simpler to brush it off than to risk creating tension. The issue is, every time you let something slide that truly violates your standards, you're quietly teaching people exactly how they're allowed to treat you. A high-value woman notices this, not because she wants a man who picks fights over every small thing, but because she wants to know whether the man in front of her actually respects himself. If you won't defend your own dignity, she starts questioning whether you'll be able to protect the relationship once things get genuinely difficult. Picture yourself at dinner with her and a group of friends. She cracks a joke about you that gets everyone laughing, but you can tell it wasn't just playful, it actually embarrassed you. Rather than saying anything, you force a smile and pretend it didn't bother you because you don't want to ruin the mood of the evening. Now picture the same scenario handled differently. You wait for the right moment and calmly say, "I know you were just joking, but I'd rather we not make jokes like that about me." There's no raised voice, no public embarrassment. No argument, you simply state your standard with quiet confidence. That's exactly what genuine self-respect looks like. A high-value woman doesn't lose respect for a man because he has boundaries. If anything, she respects him more because he communicates them with maturity, composure, and emotional control instead of silence, buried resentment, or unnecessary aggression. The fifth boundary: don't bury your own opinions just to keep the peace. One of the easiest ways a man slowly loses himself inside a relationship is by constantly agreeing with things he doesn't actually agree with. It rarely happens all at once. It starts small. She picks the restaurant, and you say you're fine with anything, even though you secretly had somewhere else in mind. She shares an opinion you don't share, and instead of having an honest back and forth, you just nod along to sidestep any conflict. Do this often enough, and you eventually stop showing up as who you really are. A high-value woman picks up on that pattern. She's not looking for a man who argues about everything or turns every discussion into a debate. She wants someone who has genuine thoughts, real preferences, and enough confidence to voice them without becoming defensive. When a man agrees with absolutely everything she says, the relationship becomes predictable, and that predictability slowly erases the curiosity that keeps attraction alive. Imagine she asks where you'd like to grab dinner. Instead of giving an honest answer, you immediately say, "Wherever you want is totally fine." The next time she asks, you give the exact same response, and then again the time after that. Eventually, she ends up making every single decision because she's stopped expecting you to have any preference at all. Now picture a different response. You smile and say, "I've actually been wanting to try that new Italian place. If you're up for it, let's go. If not, we'll save it for another time." You've expressed a real preference without trying to force the outcome. That's the key difference. A high-value woman isn't interested in dating a mirror image of herself. She wants to know the actual man sitting across from her, and that only happens when you're willing to let your own voice be heard. The sixth boundary: stop chasing reassurance every time she pulls back slightly. This is one of the toughest boundaries for most men to build. The moment a woman seems a little quieter than normal, replies more slowly than usual, or appears distracted, plenty of men instantly assume something has gone wrong. Rather than staying calm, they start sending follow-up messages, asking repeatedly if everything's okay, or fishing for reassurance that the relationship is still secure. These actions usually come from a fear of losing her, but ironically, they often create exactly the distance they're trying so hard to avoid. A high-value woman doesn't expect a man to panic just because her attention shifted for a day or two. Life gets busy, people get stressed, tired, or simply need a little space to process whatever's going on. When a man immediately assumes the worst, he's communicating that his emotional stability is entirely dependent on her constant reassurance. Picture this: she usually replies within the hour, but today she hasn't responded all afternoon. A lot of men would send another message, then another, convincing themselves they're just checking in. By the time she finally checks her phone, she's met with a conversation that feels more like pressure than genuine connection. Now picture a different response. He notices the silence but simply continues on with his day. He hits the gym, finishes up his work, spends time with friends, and when she eventually does reply, he responds naturally instead of questioning where she's been or why it took her so long. That kind of confidence is nearly impossible to fake, because it comes from a man whose entire life doesn't grind to a halt just because his phone goes quiet for a while. A high-value woman feels that difference immediately. She's not dealing with someone who needs endless reassurance. She's with a man secure enough in himself to stay steady even when things feel uncertain. The seventh and final boundary quietly reinforces every single one we've already discussed. Never make her responsible for your happiness. No relationship, no matter how fulfilling or healthy it is, should ever become the sole source of your happiness. Many men enter relationships hoping the right woman will somehow complete a piece of themselves they feel is missing. At first it seems harmless enough. They want to spend every free moment with her. They rely on her attention to feel good about themselves, and when she's happy, they're happy. But the moment she becomes distant, their entire emotional world starts falling apart. A high-value woman notices this long before a man ever says a single word about it. She doesn't want the pressure of being solely responsible for someone else's happiness, because she understands that's a weight no one person can carry forever. The healthiest relationships are built by two whole, complete individuals choosing one another, not by one person leaning entirely on the other just to feel whole. Imagine your plans together get canceled because she has an unexpected family obligation to attend to. Instead of enjoying the rest of your day, you become frustrated, disappointed, and unable to focus on anything else, simply because your entire weekend had been built around seeing her. Now picture handling it differently. You tell her, "I hope everything goes okay with your family, we'll catch up soon." Then you go on with your own plans, meet up with a friend, work on a personal project, or enjoy one of your hobbies without any resentment weighing you down. Happiness, because she understands that's a weight no one person can carry forever. The healthiest relationships are built by two whole, complete individuals choosing one another, not by one person leaning entirely on the other just to feel whole. Imagine your plans together get canceled because she has an unexpected family obligation to attend to. Instead of enjoying the rest of your day, you become frustrated, disappointed, and unable to focus on anything else, simply because your entire weekend had been built around seeing her. Now picture handling it differently. You tell her, "I hope everything goes okay with your family, we'll catch up soon." Then you go on with your own plans, meet up with a friend, work on a personal project, or enjoy one of your hobbies without any resentment weighing you down. That doesn't mean you care about her any less. It means you've built a life that feels fulfilling whether she's beside you or not. Ironically, that's precisely the kind of man a high-value woman feels safest choosing, because she knows he's with her purely because he wants to be, not because he needs her to carry the entire weight of his happiness on her shoulders. When a man starts living by these boundaries, something remarkable begins to happen. He stops viewing relationships as something he has to constantly hold together through sheer effort, and instead starts seeing them for exactly what they were always meant to be. A relationship should add to your life, not replace it entirely. That single shift changes how you think, how you behave, and even the kind of women you naturally begin to attract. Attraction doesn't grow because you keep giving away more and more of yourself. It grows because the best parts of who you are stay fully intact, no matter how deeply you love someone. None of these boundaries were ever really about controlling a woman. They were about making absolutely certain you never lose control of yourself. Precisely the kind of man a high-value woman feels safest choosing, because she knows he's with her purely because he wants to be, not because he needs her to carry the entire weight of his happiness on her shoulders. When a man starts living by these boundaries, something remarkable begins to happen. He stops viewing relationships as something he has to constantly hold together through sheer effort, and instead starts seeing them for exactly what they were always meant to be. A relationship should add to your life, not replace it entirely. That single shift changes how you think, how you behave, and even the kind of women you naturally begin to attract. Attraction doesn't grow because you keep giving away more and more of yourself. It grows because the best parts of who you are stay fully intact, no matter how deeply you love someone. None of these boundaries were ever really about controlling a woman. They were about making absolutely certain you never lose control of yourself. A high-value woman isn't searching for a man who agrees with her on everything or reshapes his entire existence just to keep her satisfied. She wants a man who knows exactly who he is and continues being that same man well after the relationship begins. This is the moment where everything comes together. Stop measuring your worth by how much you're willing to give up. Stop mistaking self-erasure for love. The man a high-value woman chooses to stay with isn't the one who vanished piece by piece to please her. He's the one who stood tall, stayed whole, and never once apologized for having a life, a voice, and a spine. Every boundary you build isn't a wall keeping her out. It's a foundation strong enough to hold a real relationship. Somewhere right now, a man is choosing comfort over conviction, silence over self-respect, chasing over confidence. Don't be that man any longer. Close this video and go protect the life you've built. Go call the friend you canceled on. Go chase the goal you paused. Go speak the truth you've been swallowing. Because the moment you stop performing for approval and start living as your fullest, most grounded self, something extraordinary happens. The right woman doesn't just notice you. She respects you. She trusts you. She chooses you again and again, not because you gave her everything, but because you never stopped being someone worth choosing.